Thank you for having us at this meeting today. It is I, King Ghidorah, excited to be the ninth, 10th, and 11th wonder of the world. As you can see, I have three heads and three independent thinking systems. So I am ready for my close-up, Mr. Denham. What will my musical entail?
King Ghidorah, old boy, thank you for coming. I propose a musical animated feature all about you. And do not worry, you will live at the end. And I will also provide, free of charge, for you, the Sherman Brothers.
You mean the award-winning writers of songs from such hits as Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Jungle Book, and Charlotte's Web?
No, don't be ridiculous. I can't afford them on the budget that I'm on. These are merely two fellows I found at the local bar called John and Paul Sherman. I don't think they can write, but they will give it their best if I get them around it.
Wonderful, wonderful. I imagine I will survive at the end of the film, and a cute monkey will wake me up who I can, like, swallow on the spot, and I'll go,
My dear man, probably. Now, for my
well,
musical number, which I will sing 4 times throughout the film. Oh, wouldn't it be grand to be in a film made by me, where you're the only kaiju on the screen? Wouldn't it be great to do a film with me? Wouldn't you have a wonderful time with me? Oh, wouldn't it be fantastic to sail across the sea to the island of the kaiju and me? That
There's
was
actually some pretty good rhyming there. I'm very impressed.
that was more effort than what was put into the film.
We have watched The Mighty Kong, a 1998 straight-to-video animated musical in which it is an straight-up animated adaptation of King Kong, the most famous gorilla ever, which is no narrow field. Directed by Mr. Art Scott. This is his only directing credit. And perhaps I'm actually willing to wager this is like somebody under a pseudonym, because I would not want to be attached to this.
Well, I believe Mr. Art Scott was a former Disney animator who left to start his own company.
So, because when I click his letterbox page, there's literally nothing else. Oh, wait, artist for UPA Disney. Okay, so he has some connections there.
He seems to have mostly been a producer. I can see a few more credits on his IMDb page. Yogi Bear's All-Star Comedy Christmas. Isn't that?
Is that the one we watched?
I think it might be. I think we've watched that.
God,
He was the producer.
good times.
Simpler times, happier times. This has some talent behind it. It's got Jodie Benson of Little Mermaid fame thrown in. It's got Dudley Moore as Carl Denham in his in his final role, which
really
always amuses me. Like,
oh.
Don't tell them this was my last film. Like on his deathbed. The Orson Welles Award for like ignoble final movie in your repertoire.
Well, I would say, regardless of your feelings about Transformers, that Unicron makes this look downright Shakespearean.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, other way around. This makes Unicron look Shakespearean.
Yes.
My mistake.
Yeah. Um, I can't think of any more talent. Have we mentioned the Sherman Brothers? We did in the opening. The Sherman Brothers do the songs.
Allegedly, because it certainly doesn't. I don't know if is this the last thing they ever wrote for? Because it's like way long removed from their heyday in like the 50s, 60s or so. This
Yeah,
was 1998, so like 30 years after their biggest works, I imagine. Is there like a filmography?
I don't know.
They did a couple. I guess in 2000, they wrote the songs for the Tigger movie of
Oh,
Winnie the Pooh cinematic universe. So they weren't totally done, but it's still far removed from, I would say, like their most prominent time at Disney.
they're very weird songs. I guess we'll get into them soon enough. But I don't know whether it's that the lyrics themselves were okay, but it's the way that they're executed, which is awful. Maybe that's the most generous appraisal I can give them. Like,
Well, I would
sounded
ask.
okay on
I
paper.
don't know if I don't know if you would be aware. Is Dudley Moore known for singing it all? Because he's very much like Shatnering it throughout this.
I don't know. Is he known for singing? I don't know much about Dudley Moore. Let me
Me
have a look.
neither.
Dudley
I
Moore.
would guess not.
Did Dudley Moore really play the piano? Yes, he did. I think that helps. Well, he's listed on Wikipedia as English actor, comedian, musician, and composer. So
Which is because his singing in this is just like, wouldn't it be great to be in Hollywood? It would be really, really, really good to be in Hollywood.
well, yeah. Um, he doesn't come off well, but they give him some really terrible lyrics. So
Mhm.
maybe that's the best anyone could do with the material that they were provided.
Oh, what a luscious life you're leading, Lotus Land.
In Hollywood,
Living it up in the movie colony.
Beverly Hills,
Once you are a movie star, your life is really lush.
Lush.
And this is no plot summary, I feel, is necessary. This is very much as it can be, a straightforward adaptation of Kong. It follows the beats, if awkwardly. It does very much feel like they just had a mission statement of Kong, but like Disney, vaguely, and tried to like rip off those hallmarks and the story beats and where to attach the songs. So what we get is like it feels very half-hearted ultimately. Um
It is all, yeah, it's all the familiar Kong things that you will remember, but
yeah.
sanitized and drilled down to their basic essence. And it's a film that has really weird pacing. I mean, it's 70 minutes long.
Uh,
And I would say 50 of those minutes are spent on pointless musical numbers, boat scenes. And then we finally get to Kong, I'd say about 45 minutes into the film. And he's in the film very little.
yeah.
And then we blaze back to New York and we wrap it all up. And I would say the best the best thing about the film is the opening sequence, which
Mhm.
has a very atmospheric and I would say quite nicely animated little scene of
Yeah.
the natives tying up a woman about to sacrifice to Kong. And it's all really well lit. And I thought it was quite impressive. And I was like, oh, this is quite a nice sort of color palette
Mhm.
we've got going on here. This could be quite good. And then you cut to the city, and immediately the quality nosedives, and
Oh
it
yeah.
never reaches the heights of those opening 2 minutes.
Nope.
We
Well, I
immediately
think I said
cut to a song, the lyrics of which I honestly cannot understand because it sounds like everybody singing out of tune at the same time, and I can't remember what
mhm.
it is, but there's dancers, there's like cabaret dancers and some people in animal outfits. It's like it's the most what are you saying?
Most ferocious I can see on the stage or on the screen. CG Venom's terrifying, mystifying, wild animal funny. He beats up bush in Africa and he mows
man, I did describe it to you, like, watching this film, there was, like, a metaphysical thermometer on screen at all times, and it starts off full, and that's the budget, and it just gradually gets lower, and the film just gets, like, worse and worse from there. Like, it has nowhere to go but down when it needs to. So by the time Kong is present in the narrative, I kind of forgot he was there because, like, they use him so sparingly, and I think because they wanted this to be a family work, he's not like scary really at all. Like, he's not really intimidating. They don't really do any of the affectionate connecting that Andero and Kong do that drives the narrative. He just kind of is there at a certain point.
Well, she only spends about 2 seconds with him on the island. He picks her up,
Mhm.
he saves her from some big pterodactyls and a gigantic snake, which grows in size before
Right.
frames of the movie. And then she escapes. So they spend all of about 10 seconds together. And we're expected to believe that has forged some sort of emotional connection. And she clearly doesn't really care about him at all. Like, she's completely
Yep.
unmoved. It's just a job to her. Uh, there's nothing there. There's no personality to Kong in this film.
Not at all. Which, like, and I, yeah, no, and there is like that aspect that, like, every version of Kong does have like an almost, there's either like a childlike, naivete to him, or something that even when he's like tearing down the city, you feel really sorry for him.
Hmm.
And here it just all feels like an afterthought. So they really, yeah, drop the ball when he could. Like, if you're gonna have a kids cartoony Kong, you could go all the way and make him like, a big child, like, you can make him a total, like, it could be a comedic relief Kong, but they seem to really want to have their cake and eat it too. So he has these really half-hearted, like, city rampages. It just does not come together.
Yeah, he doesn't really do any actual damage to the city. He picks up a vegetable cart and he eats it. And then he interferes with some sewer maintenance, and that's about it. And eventually he just
there's a
passes out.
There's a truly bizarre bit where he like picks up a moving car and places it on a active train track. It's implied they crash into each other, but also, like, the way they illustrate this is by not doing like, it's impossible to describe, but it's like they move to a cell of like actual smoke. Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Yeah, because it confused me as well. And I was like,
I
what?
was like, what? Just, I don't know, if you can get the footage in there, just let people see in the edit what on earth this is.
I mean, it's an inexplicable film at many points because the animation is so inconsistent. It felt to me as though two completely separate animation teams had worked on it, like two different studios in completely different places who had
Oh
no
yeah.
idea what the other studio was doing. Because, I mean, notably, Anne's hair changes color about 3 times, sometimes in the same scene. She goes from a redhead to a blonde about 5 times throughout the course of this film. And I thought, first, I thought it was just lighting. It's not. It's just they
I was kind of, I was like, well, she's trying on wigs for the character or something, but they
yeah.
play way too fast and loose with it for me to give that benefit of the doubt at a certain point.
And there were certain points where, and you pointed this out to me as well, like, you do become a bit disoriented and you start to feel like maybe you're seeing things because the boat scenes are all tilted back and forth to show
Uh-huh.
they're on a boat. And I started to feel sick
It was awful.
because all they did, they put the cell from side to side and just have it slant up and down rather than animate actual like boat waves. It's like, oh yeah, just move it up and down a bit. And I was like, oh God, my eyes. I don't know. I beg you to stop.
Uh, all while we're focused on like if you're a main character in this film, you maybe look vaguely like a cool gargoyles human character, and then there's like the most bizarre cobbled together drawings for all of the like sailors and civilians. And they get like all this focus as the camera rocks back and forth, and it's enough to make one nauseous.
The character designs are very strange in this. And there's a ship's captain who inexplicably is not voiced by Edward Asner. And as soon as he showed up, I was like, Edward Asner's going to be that captain, and he wasn't, and I was massively disappointed. He would have improved the
What a
film
waste.
tenfold. Instead, we get like I think he's meant to be Scottish, but he's Irish at a few points as well.
Uh-huh.
But he does get my favorite line in the movie where Carl Denham is talking about his map. And he's like, I bought this map for $1,000. And the guy, this guy just goes like really deadpan. You, sir, are a madman. My favorite exchange in the movie.
Sums it all up right there, pretty much.
We get a piece of shit Carl Denham in this, who
Yeah.
never gets any kind of comeuppance. He's just like
Nope.
a horrible, horrible person. And I think we've all been spoiled by Jack Black, Carl Denham, who was a very three-dimensional character in the Peter Jackson
Oh
kid.
yeah.
Like he's still kind of like a sleazy, selfish person, but he has moments of kind of self-reflection. You kind of feel bad for him. And this Carl Denham's just an active villain in the film. He lies to a child. He, he immediately suggests that they gun down a group of natives just because they're standing in the way of his film shoot. He's like, good heavens, man, hands are for just over fire. And the captain's like, good God, man, what are you talking about?
Well, like, I feel his save the cat moment almost is also really bizarre because at the start, I don't think this is ever a thing in any other Kong movie, but he finds so he's like, they're like, first of all, they're like, do you have a star for your next film, Jack Denham? And he's like, oh, well, and he asks his cameraman, like, what did Garbo say? Drop dead, sir. Which I don't know if that's a suggestion that they killed Greta Garbo or what the deal is. She was presumably alive when this film takes place, but also dead for 8 years when they made it. So I don't know. And then they overhear a woman trying to steal an apple, and that's Ann Darrow. And for some reason, seeing this act of petty theft has him like, it's her, she's my star. Oh. So they established that Ann Darrow was like struggling to feed herself and has to steal from a fruit stand, and he swoops in and saves her. And the price she pays is a lifetime shackled to mortal peril in the form of Jack Denham's ambitions.
Yes, I don't think she's a good person. It's
No.
what I would say about Anne Darrow in this film, because she also immediately suggests gunning down the natives. So I think Anne Darrow in this, a thief and a racist, in my view.
Well, there's the best my favorite exchange in the film is that when she's on the boat and she says something like, "You know what? It's crazy. Today I'm an actor when just yesterday I was an apple thief." And it's like, "Wait, was that your job?" Like specifically apple thief?
If this was during the Depression, that things were very desperate. You had to hire a couple of apple thieves.
I would love if she just like hung her hat on being an apple thief. Like when the captain's like, we can't just gun down the natives, and she's like, well, my intuition as an apple thief says otherwise. the songs in this, the acclaimed Sherman Brothers songs are to the effect of the Hollywood one, which he sings like twice. And then they're like, your character is Dolly of the Polly Ollie, and you're gonna do this hula on the island. And we do that for like 3.5 minutes, which is like 4 too long.
Oh, it's
uh
horrendous. It's horrendous. And it was so awful. I have endured some pretty bad songs when we've been watching things for this podcast. I have never suffered as I have suffered through these. I think the songs we watched last week in the Magic Trolls unaired animated pilot were better than this.
Those are the only two and then I guess there's like the burlesque number where they're introducing Kong, and I think that's no, there's a love song too.
Oh, the
The
God.
sappy fucking love song.
About how neither of them can think of anything to say to each other. And it starts off like, what am I doing? Why can't I speak? I'm not usually at such a loss for words. What's happening to me?
I usually hate women, but this one's okay. There's
This.
like they like filmed real water and like applied that as a filter of like a ripple effect or something.
There is some very questionable choices all round, I
God.
think, in this. And it's, I don't know. Could you have done a good animated?
Uh, There's like that Netflix Kong Skull Island anime. I don't know if it's like good or what, but I think it can be done. Do you mean like for family audiences?
Yeah, like if you want to do a big animated Kong motion picture. Like
Um,
if Disney had thrown their full weight behind a Kong animated film, it maybe-
if you treated, I don't know if you could get away with like a Disney film where the title character dies at the end, which that's put a pin in that. We'll return to that notion. If, like I think of like if the atmosphere was like Tarzan or the Lion King, and
Hmm.
you treated it with that kind of like reverence, then maybe it could kind of work. But I just don't think there could ever be a Disney movie where the main character dies at the end. There has to be some kind of like that's not to say Disney doesn't kill people. Like you could have like animal death 100%. But I just don't think they would ever kill like the title character of one of their movies. And King Kong kinda has to end that way. Otherwise, it's fucking ridiculous and stupid. And we'll get to how that happens in execution.
I think you're right. I don't think they would ever have done it. Maybe you would have had to go to one of the other like non-Disney animated studios from around the
Mhm.
cities. Like maybe Warner Brothers would have done it. Um,
Maybe.
Gary
Or
Oldman
maybe
as Carl Denham using his Ruby voice, and that's what we would have done.
yeah.
Hey,
Or I
it's
guess
on an island. I
feel
have a
like if it were a
friend. It
full
includes apes.
if it were like a full weight Disney production, maybe you could get away with like Hong is sent to another island and it's like a somber goodbye and it's like a lesson of letting animals live in their habitat. But I think even that would be kind of easy to bristle at, you know what I mean? That kind of brings us to the ending. Are we already ready? Because like, there's for as much as we have to gripe about, so much of the screen time is just bad songs. That I think we've already reached the point of the ending.
So much of it is just nausea on a boat, and then some bad. Then we go back to New York.
And it is Kong goes on his rampage. Instead of shooting him in a biplane, they try to pick him up with a blimp with a big crane
Excuse
claw.
me, two blimps. Because one character specifically goes, I've got two blimps. I was like, wow. And a big neck.
and, it-
Four.
and instead of shooting him down, he is lifted off the building, and I don't know what their plan is from there. Like, and we'll take him safely somewhere. Like, and he is dropped unceremoniously. He hits his head on like a concrete building on the way down before he fucking hits the pavement. And it is so fucking grim because you get like almost, I don't know if they intended this to be serious, but it's borderline a visual gag of a man with a chalk making a chalk outline of Kong by walking a little like white paint dispenser around him. When
That
the death
felt
the
like
death of
something out of
Kong should be so harrowing and like a Looney Tunes gag of someone drawing the chalk outline around him.
it really felt like something from like the Simpsons parody of Kong when I was watching that.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? Well,
Man.
do we want to discuss the final moments of the film?
Well, it starts with Jack Denham unfazed by this, no guilt, none of the emotion that other versions of the character show. He goes, well, if he is alive, we'll still have a big show. And people are like, I feel like maybe the captain is there or someone else is like, would you shut the fuck up?
What the fuck is wrong with you, Carl Denham? He keeps describing himself as CB Denham throughout the film. I'm CB Denham. And then was it one of his finest moments, one of the genuine laughs I had from the film is when an Irish cop confronts CB Denham. And he's like, don't you know who I am? I'm CB Denham. You need to get back. There's a giant ape in there. And the Irish cop goes, now you listen to me, pal. I've dealt with my fair share of loose gorillas in this town. And I just thought that was a wonderful, just insane bit of dialogue towards the end. Like, what have you?
Let's circle back to that later. And he also, they have to work it because they're not sure if he's dead. He hit his head and probably broke his skull open on a building. And Carl Denham goes, well, if he is dead, it's not the fall that killed him, 'tis beauty that killed the beast. It's like barely applies when, as we've touched on, they barely had a relationship in this movie.
I don't think it was beauty that killed the beast. I think it was the two blimps and their badly enforced netting. Like, maybe
Ugh.
where that Irish cop had gone wrong before. That's how he knew how to use two blimps, because last time the giant ape went on the rampage. He was like,
This works on
"Those are
all
the
the other
boys."
gorillas.
That's bizarre. Next time we better use three blimps. More
And we
blimps,
see-
boys! Get me more blimps!
He's like secretly the CEO of like a blimp conglomerate getting paid for all this. You know, they're like looking at Kong's knocked out, like almost dead body, and they're like, I hear blimps are great for treating head wounds.
How you get him back after this? You taking the blimp? Just imagine it like CB Denham on board the blimp, like that episode of Archer. Like, don't discharge your firearm, you madman! You'll blow us all to kingdom come.
If you need an eighth wonder of the world, let me introduce you to blimps. They've changed my life. But they might not need a new wonder of the world, because Chips the monkey removes his hat in solemn mourning, and then Kong wakes up, and everyone's just really glad about it.
They don't really comment on it, which was kind of inexplicable to me. Like, do you think they put that in at the last minute?
Oh, I think absolutely. They were like, this is too upsetting. Just have him wake up at the end, and everyone's fine. and they have no solution for keeping him from running amok again.
Yeah.
Presumably, no one has learned a lesson. They're just like, oh, good, back to normal.
That the police chief will have it sorted. He'll be like,
Yeah.
I knew that fall wouldn't kill an ape. It didn't kill the last 5 apes. It won't kill this one, sir.
As long as a surveillance blimp follows Kong at all times, he will not go on another rampage. I can tell you that.
I mean, it completely undermines Carl Denham's iconic line as well.
Right, that's the
It was
thing.
beauty that killed the bee. Oh no, sorry, he's fine. It's just I can see his eyes opening. Never mind. Never
I got a little ahead of myself there.
mind.
Jesus Christ. This was terrible. I was willing to be like, it's like watchable, but that is maybe like the dumbest fucking ending I've ever seen put to film. And it just lost all goodwill, all like charitably apathetic will, I should say, I may have had for it.
I really can't think of a single thing I would endorse about it or would say, well, they did that good. Like, I don't think it's anything. I think it's a really half-assed, sloppily made, poorly sung disaster.
Ugh, man. We should, if we were ranking, this still, I feel like nothing will ever be as bad as Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Because I think that, like, carried itself as being a cerebral future piece. I don't know. This was, this was so stupid. I do, I don't want to say this is one of the worst things we've done on animates, but I do think it's like the most waste of a familiar IP. Like, as far as things connected to famous characters we've covered, this is maybe like the most frustrating bastardization
I thought you were about
take
to say
on it.
bastardize, bastardize.
Bastard's eye.
I can't say it now. Bastardization.
Oh, that's pretty good actually.
It's a difficult one to say that. But I
Mm.
agree fully. I think it's just such a weird production that oh, you know what people don't like is a Kong film. And maybe they would. And I think this was made around the time that Mighty Joe Young was out. And was there another ape thing around this time? Potentially, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes was around this time. I don't know if that.
Oh, yeah, there was a small monkey mania of the late 90s.
We had Mummy Mania
Um,
in like 97, and then we must have had Ape Mania 98. This was the result of that, perhaps. I don't know.
Yep. Well, this does not get a recommendation from me. It was very stupid.
There's very little to appreciate about this at all.
No.
Um, Blimps. Like, that's the highlight of the film. If you're a blimp enthusiast and you've always wanted to see a blimp in Kong, you'll love it.